There are two phases that are in front of us. The first is the construction phase. So the construction phase will involve the world's largest construction companies and the world's largest engineering companies combining their efforts to expand the mine. So that'll be a construction phase, and that's explained in the environmental impact statement. And then that will follow on with a maintenance phase. So there'll be a huge amount of additional work during the construction phase, but then, as I said, most probably, pick a number, but 6 times more work for everyone during the maintenance and operation phase.
Let's look at, say, that construction phase. Does that mean that that those major engineering companies will have to establish some form of office or administrative presence in South Australia, or does the modern era mean that that's not necessary?
No, we'll see the companies that are successful, and obviously that's yet to be settled, but the companies that are successful will establish large administrative and engineering task force that will be based wherever BHP Billiton decide. But one imagines that there will be people engaged in those roles at the mine face or the construction site, but equally there'll be people involved in the City of Adelaide supporting those operations or those construction activities.
Let's look at something left field for a moment. Obviously all of the people working on those projects will need to be fed. Something as simple as catering services, supply of food, that sort of thing. Who runs that?
So there are a number of companies that are involved in the provision of those activities. I can't tell you who the current supplier is up there, but it would be an organisation like Spotless, maybe Serco, and I understand that the construction camp, I think at its maximum, is going to have 5,000 people. So you can imagine that is a huge business, and that business needs to supply food for men 3 times, or men and women for 3 times a day. So you know, that's 15,000 meals a day, and the winner or the winners of those contracts will end up having very significant operations in this state.
And someone's got to supply the apples, bananas, the ham sandwiches, the whole lot.
Well, I guess the apples, bananas, ham sandwiches, etc., they're all currently provided to those people wherever they are in Australia, but there'll be people now involved in the logistics of delivering those products, and just the logistics contracts will be huge. So there'll be a lot more work for transport companies, there'll be a lot more work for people involved in refrigeration. So you'll see that there is a spin-off. I think I read in the media the proposed spin-off from the EIS statement is 15,000 people, so 15,000 indirect jobs, and they'll be involved in doing things like you mentioned, logistics for food as well as logistics for engineering services and other activities.
Part of the expansion also includes upgrading the airstrip to handle A380 jets and the like. Does that mean, for example, that a lot of those 5,000 jobs could well be people coming from Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane?
I think the reality is a number of them will have to come from interstate. I know the terms of the indenture that have been negotiated between the government and BHP Billiton does have BHP Billiton seeking to supply the needs for the expansion. First of all regionally, then I think locally, as in from the City of Adelaide and environs, then from Australia, and then internationally. The reality is, of a project of this size, there will be more than enough, in my view, to go around for everyone, and we'll see BHP Billiton sourcing its needs as the project demands, regionally, locally, nationally and internationally.
BHP said yesterday that they're committed to a pre-establishment expenditure of about $1.1 billion. Your company has got divisions involved in everything from sort of heavy engineering to supplies, a lot of mining components. You'd obviously be looking at getting a slice of that cake.
Well, we've more than half of our companies already work for BHP Billiton at Olympic Dam, so we've already noticed an increase in activity, and we're expecting that increase of activity to continue. Obviously, like everyone else, we've got to be competitive, and we've got to continue to meet BHP Billiton's expectations as to safety, quality, and doing the service that we offer on time and on budget. But subject to those caveats, we're expecting a huge increase in activity, as you would expect with even $1.1 billion being spent over the next whatever that period of time will be, but I suspect 6 to 12 months. But it is interesting just to note that this project has pre-commitment expenditure of $1.1 billion, which is what you would ordinarily expect a project. We all look forward to BHP Billiton making the commitment to the remainder of the expansion, and when they make that commitment, obviously they will decide how it will proceed. I believe everyone is of the view that it is likely to be staged. The size of this project is such that I think those who are informed believe it will need to be staged, which means that we'll see the expansion roll out over most probably a 10-year period, maybe even longer. But the activity over that 10 years, just to give you a sense, currently the amount of work committed or under construction in South Australia in the mining services area is under $1 billion. So it's hard to imagine that this is going to be anything less than 3 times the current level of activity, and we will notice that throughout the entire community.
Stephen Young, thank you.
Pleasure.